Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 318 of the Orange Pill Investor, the jealousy episode. I can't remember if I saw the pics last night or this morning, but I was like, 100K party, what the fuck? And then, of course, I uh, I got to cheer for my boys who were in attendance. I guess there's a couple of different kinds of jealousy. When I saw them, I was like, oh man, I wish I was there with those guys. Um, it's kind of weird, like going somewhere like that, like, if I was invited by myself, I'd probably be scared. I'd probably still go, but it wouldn't be the same. But, you know, being able to go and hang out with those guys and experience it is probably the hardest part. They absolutely deserve to be there, proof of work, in action. Maybe the hardest part, even more than that, though, is like when you when you see pictures of a couple of people, you're like, "How the fuck did they get an invite?" Like, "Motherfucker." Um, but yeah, it's all good. But I was kind of thinking about it as I was walking the dogs, and I'm like, "I don't know, should I talk about this in an episode? If I do, maybe people will realize I'm a little bitch." And then I was like, "Well, if I don't talk about it in the episode, then I'm the only one who will know I'm a little bitch. So might as well just be a little bitch." Um Yeah, let me check these chats. Yeah, for sure. Hold on, let me get over to the screen. Yeah, good morning and happy new year to everybody commenting in the chat. Um, Nucleo says, "Not a wolf pack. The wolves stick together. If no invite for one, the pack, no one goes." That's funny. Um, uh, nah, I can't imagine doing something like that. But yeah, I I was kind of laughing because I'm like, maybe I did get an invite, but since I live under the stairs with my godparents, maybe they just kept intercepting my invitation and didn't want me to go. And then at the same time, like, I wouldn't attend a party that would invite someone of my caliber anyway. Like, come on, who wants to go somewhere like that? Um, but anyway, it made me think about comparisons because there's a couple of different ways you can react to someone having something that you want that you can't get. Like, um, and it reminded me of this article. It's a guy who was a professional gamer, and he wrote this article on scrub mentality. And when something bad happens to you, you can be like, "Oh, why me?" Um, or when something happens that you miss out on, you can be like, "Oh, well, why not me?" Um, but the other way to say "why not me" is like it usually it's a bad thing. When you compare yourself to someone who's better than you, then it's discouraging. So that erodes your effort. Maybe you'll just quit and not try. And if you compare yourself to people who are, maybe lower in the hierarchy than you, then it makes you feel good about yourself, but maybe you don't try as hard as you could because you're like, "Oh, well, I'm better than them, so maybe I don't have to step up my game." So usually comparisons are kind of bad, but if you can use it for inspiration, like, hey, instead of like, "Why not me?" If you can say, "Hey, well, why not me?" Like, if they can do it, maybe I can do it too. That's the only way to really use comparisons, I think, to your advantage. Even some of these professional athletes that I think they use disrespect as motivation. Like, they just have that alpha competition, and sometimes they even like go out and create controversy and find haters even when they don't exist just to get that fuel. I don't necessarily know that that's necessarily healthy. I mean, um, but yeah, and so this is definitely not, not like a pity party. Um, I can handle not being invited, but I don't think I can handle somebody feeling sorry for me that I didn't get invited. Like, fuck that. Uh, you know, I might be a bit of an attention whore making these videos, but I don't need that kind of attention. You gotta have an ego to open your mouth, imagining that other people will be interested in what you have to say in the in the first place. Like, uh, maybe that's why monks are so humble. Silence is the ultimate humility. So if I'm standing out there on like a on a box on the street corner with a megaphone talking about buying calls means you have the right but not the obligation to buy 100 shares. People would throw rotten tomatoes at me like, shut the fuck up, dude. I'm just waiting for the bus. But you put together a consistent body of work and you're kind of attracted to people who vibrate on the same frequency. So I appreciate everybody who tunes into the calls. And I'm kind of excited to maybe do some more spaces and have more interaction with people. So, but yeah, I'm totally stoked for Jeff, Ben, and Tim. Definitely MicroStrategy, future Hall of Famers or whatever. When it's all been said and done, uh, they're gonna have the gold Hall of Fame jackets, and getting invited to the 100K party was like winning the Super Bowl. So they're gonna have the Super Bowl ring and the Hall of Fame jacket. And I guess maybe I'll just have to settle for the Hall of Fame jacket because I think just being around those guys, you know, it's like being the sixth man in basketball. You know what I mean? Like you still get a trophy, even though those guys did all the hard work. So um, yeah, let me get caught up on these on these chats. Uh, oh, someone Howard says no sound. Oh, and then says, "Oh, there you are." Okay, so hopefully I haven't been just talking to myself the whole time. Um, Junkrat says proof of work paying off. Absolutely. Yeah, I saw who was it? Kruger. I think he said something about, they had these olden times, they had exclusive parties um and the people who didn't get invited would actually make excuses like they were gonna be out of town, even though they didn't get invited in the first place. So, just to keep up appearances. So, yeah, I'll just be like, "Oh, yeah, I had to walk my dogs or something, I couldn't make it." Um Oh, shit, that's funny. Um, Harry Potter 6, Slughorn's party wasn't that cool anyway. Yeah, no, definitely don't wanna come off as, like, sour grapes 'cause, what was that story where the fox was trying to jump up and get the grapes and he couldn't reach them? So then he's like, "Ah, they're probably sour anyway." Like, no, that's definitely not the case. Like, eh, I would have definitely showed up wearing my best pair of, Holy Gym shorts. Um, Son of Satoshi, yeah, Gladiator, I hate to admit it, but yeah, he was the one when I saw his pic, I was like, I thought it was AI at first. I was like, "Holy shit, somebody AI took generated this this motherfucker at the party." Um, but, I don't know. You know what? You can't even say that he didn't deserve to be there because you know, he, maybe he got interviewed in the Wall Street Journal and took advantage of that situation. So, um, I yeah, it's hard not to, make that comparison, be like, "Oh, man, I should have been there too," but, it's almost kind of like, in Atomic Habits where they tell that story about the Beatles, and so they just put in proof of work, just practice, 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 and then when the moment it came for them to get discovered, they were ready for it. But if they hadn't practiced, they would have never gotten discovered. So it takes the work, but then it takes a little bit of luck to hit at the right time. And I kind of feel like I already won, um, my version of the game anyway. Like just getting discovered by the True North crew and getting invited to be on that show was kind of like winning the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll call it winning the college championships and the 100K party is the Super Bowl. But yeah, It's, it's all good. And, yeah, you just have to make sure that you don't compare yourself to other people and get discouraged, or compare yourself to other people and then get a little bit of air of superiority, like, "Oh, I don't have to work hard now." Um, maybe I'll just be Yoko Ono, right? Maybe I suck a little bit, but at least I still get to hang out with the Beatles. Um, and that's kind of another thing, like, I probably wouldn't have 4x'd my account in 2024 if I hadn't I've put in that work and then got connected with the True North crew and then changed my investment strategy a bit. On my own, I fairly estimating I probably would have doubled my account this year. Just with the pure covered call strategy, I think that would have been a fair expectation to achieve. But it wasn't until seeing Quant Bros 1 that I really realized what MicroStrategy could do, piggybacked on top of Bitcoin. So I'm absolutely grateful for 2024 and getting to rub elbows with those guys. And even if I hadn't gotten invited to be on the True North calls, like just being lucky enough that the YouTube algorithm suggested that I watch Quant Bros 1, or I can't remember if somebody linked it to me or if YouTube was just like, okay, you're addicted to, MSTR and Bitcoin. Here, watch this video. Can't remember how I actually discovered it, but that's kind of a lucky break in and of itself. So, um, yeah, but that gamer that wrote the article on scrub mentality, it's kind of like people would call blocking in a karate game as cheap, or throws were considered cheap moves, but there's always counters. So some of the scrub mentality will just not grow. They'll not learn uh, from other people's success, and they'll just complain. So, but does that also mean that, like, oh, okay, now I have to drive engagement to try to get invited to the 200K party or the $1 million Bitcoin party or any of that shit? That really doesn't work either, because that's kind of like a covert contract. It's like, okay, well, if I behave this way, I'm expecting someone else to behave a certain way, and that just doesn't come off as authentic, and probably doesn't really drive the results that you want anyway. Um, I noticed an interesting connection. So I was watching Tom Sosnoff, who's kind of like the guru that I followed when I started doing options trading, and he called the tasty trade method. They called it the goodwill model. So they basically just give away all of the strategies for free. And if I was drawing a Venn diagram, I would say MicroStrategy is in that category too. Like, they're implementing their strategy, but they're giving away the whole playbook. And the hope is that if you give value away, value will also return back to you in some form. And so I'm not monetized on X, I'm not monetized on YouTube. I had that set out as that being a goal when I started the channel, but I used to check my analytics a lot and see, oh, okay, this and that and the other thing, and trying to drive engagement. And but I think just by giving away the content in the videos generated some value that returned to me. You can call it karma or whatever, but it returned to me with, connecting to the True North people. And that's, I don't know. That's kind of like a woo-woo kind of thinking, but it seems to have worked. So we'll call maybe I should change this to the goodwill investor or something. But maybe Elon will start paying me some ad money one day, but I don't think any amount that he's ever going to send me is going to be able to compare to just making money on my own, trading in my account. So not hanging my hat on that being some kind of income stream or anything like that. I kind of had hoped it would be, but I'm kind of glad that I was able to semi-retire and just not really give a shit about that kind of stuff anymore. All right, let me scroll through these chats again. No, no face says 93K pleb party at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. I will fucking be there. That will be awesome. Um, M. Dubor says lots of questionable guests from what I saw on Twitter. Haha. Entirety of True North should have been there. Yeah, that would have been nice, but that's just not the reality. And would that even be more insulting? Like, if anybody's read Lord of the Rings, you remember when the Sackville Bagginses were offended when they realized that the only reason they got invited was so that the number of guests would add up to 100 and 111 111 guests. Like, you know, I don't, if they had only 100 guests, do I need to be like the 100th guest just to round out the theme? And they didn't really want me there, but it was just kinda like, "Okay, well, we got to get to 100, so we'll invite this fucking guy." Um, Penny Boner says, "Lots of look at me posts yesterday from folks at the party. I had no clue that True North was there. They kept it pretty low key for a bit." Yeah, no, if I had been there, I would have been posting selfies, 100%, you can guarantee. Um, but yeah, you know, there's no way I would be, would have turned it down. I would definitely have been, within taste. I mean, I guess you probably I don't know, something like that. I guess you gotta expect everybody wants selfies, to remember, and, there's a ton of people replying to those posts saying, "Hey, you gotta let us know how it was. What's Michael like in person?" And, people are interested, so, people wanna see those pics. You can call it showing off, but what is it? Flaunt it if you got it, or if it's not bragging if it's true, or I don't know. Jeremy says, "No, we can hear you. Thanks for confirming." Snowy Leopard says, "Keep providing value to society with your content and work in the Bitcoin space, and Sailor will be hoping for an invite to your party." Uh, that would be kind of cool. I actually wrote an article months ago about uh, like what my fantasy Sailor interview would be like. I don't even really do interviews. It's something that I thought about. Maybe for 2025, I will start bringing people on my podcast and doing some interviews, interviewing some peeps. Um, but yeah, I wrote an article. I think I updated it, and what questions I would ask Sailor if I got the chance. And so maybe I'll speak that into existence. Maybe that'll end up happening someday. Jim Hoffman says, I bet Sailor doesn't do that again, at least not at his place. Bunch of influencers touching all over his stuff. Yeah, hopefully there were no dirty Ethereum hodlers in attendance. Otherwise, it'd be hard to get the smell off the place. Emperor says, "You made the Harry Potter one reference. You just wanted to keep the theme going." Yeah, for real. Yeah, I don't want to pile on the guy. I saw his interview on Tim's show, and I saw that some people reacted very badly to Gladiator's interview. It took me a while to even figure out that that's who he was on X. Like, I heard people talking about him, and I was like, "Oh, it's that guy." And yeah, I didn't mind his interview that much, but it definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. Snowy says Beetle analogy is spot on. Appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know who all got invited. I can't imagine anybody getting invited and not absolutely clearing their schedule. Like, I'm not really smitten by celebrities, but yeah, I'd clear my schedule for a Sailor invite. Jeff Booth um, is my co-favorite, Bitcoin influencer with Sailor. Um, I don't want to just rattle off a bunch of names just because like, oh, I don't want to leave anybody out. But those two are my kind of favorite influencers. Um, yeah, but I don't know who else got invited or didn't. Actually, I didn't even know who was invited until I saw the selfies posted. I was like, "Holy shit, you motherfuckers are there?" So, yeah, definitely no one was, like, bragging about it, like, in your face, "Guess who got an invite," type of thing, so yeah, No Face says, "Need an air of superiority t-shirt." Or maybe we'll, like, "I didn't get invited to the 100K party, all I got was this stupid t-shirt," some shit like that. That'll be a good one. Snowy says intrinsic reward versus extrinsic. Do stuff because it gives you purpose and pride, not for anyone else or to get external validation. Yeah, I agree, Snowy, and I think that's going to be even more true. If anybody watched Tad Smith's interview, I can't remember if he said it on Tim Kotzman's podcast or on another one, but he was talking about the effect that AI is going to have on us, and I think it jives very well with what was it Tony Seba's predictions. And basically, there isn't a single job on earth that won't be able to be done better by AI in the future. And I don't know if that's 10 years from now or 20 or 50. But Tad's point was if you're going to do something that a robot can do better, you might as well enjoy yourself. So that was probably always true, but it's going to become exponentially more true um, for now into the future. Oh, Emperor says you're a good dude. I hope you do get monetized soon, though. You deserve it. Hey, appreciate that. Every once in a while, I used to check my analytics like daily or weekly. I'm like, oh man, I had a good post, or had some kind of fire post with 25 replies or some shit like that. And I look at my impressions and I'm like, not even fucking close. Howard says, "That's not woo woo. It doesn't matter if the check is signed by your boss, it's still from the universe." Yeah, excellent point. No Face says, "Yellow was the only guest that memed it right." What did he do? Nithu Sat said parody party from AI Gone Wrong. Um, yeah, MSTR Voyager says, "Sailor's a generous man to have that many people in his villa." Yeah, absolutely. That the guy to even do that and have people aren't complete strangers, but they're kinda internet strangers. Like, if you're meeting people for the first time and you're inviting them to your house, like, some of these people could be fucking crazy. Snowy says, "Nithu Market Bottom party at Chili's later this month." That's fucking hilarious. And Kryptonian says, "If you throw a party later, I will be there. Let's go." Hell yeah. Uh, and Jeremy says, "Satoshi didn't even get invited. Don't feel bad." That would be hilarious. You know what? What if Satoshi was still alive and he's like, "You know what? Since I didn't get invited to the party, let me just let everybody know and like move one sat." He just moves one sat from his wallet and everybody shits themselves at the 100K party. Simo says MSTR scammed me out of poverty. Oh, that's awesome. Snowy says Yellow was posting vids of getting kicked out and turning the lights out. What? Is that for real, or was that just, as, not sarcasm, but, whatever. I can't remember the name, the word that I'm trying to think of. I can't believe I actually took notes for my jealousy episode. Let me see if I'm missing anything here. Yeah, like, I can be second string. That's fine. Like, winning the Super Bowl, like, Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson won Super Bowls for Baltimore and the Buccaneers. Like, can you really say that they're better quarterbacks than Dan Marino? Dan Marino's got the Hall of Fame jacket, but poor bastard never won the Super Bowl. So it'll be fine if I never get invited to your Panther party. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this. So, not only that, but like, I saw Sailor talking on an interview about how you can get 30-day at the money options that pay 20% returns or something like that. And I'm like, stay in your lane, dude. Like everybody knows that the optimal theta decay curve reaches maximum acceleration at 45 days to expiration for out of the money options. You know, like at the money options have max theta decay on weeklies, bro. Like, okay, you might understand Bitcoin, but leave the options trading to the professionals over here. I remember he told a story about when he tried to trade options. I think he bought apps and or leaps in like Apple or something, and shortly after they expired worthless, over a year later, like Apple rallied and he would have made money. So he just like barely missed it. So, you know, if you've watched a half dozen episodes of my channel, you probably trade options better than Sailor at this point. So, in your face. Um, yeah, I got like one more note on here, but I'm just gonna get caught up on the chats, and maybe I'll come back to the whole, like providing value and whatnot. Penny Boner says, "Was Scotty there? He met Satoshi." Oh my god. That would be freaking hilarious if the invitations were, like, "Hey, you're invited to the 100K party," and there was, like, a plus one, and Scotty plus one actual fucking Satoshi. That shit would be amazing. Yeah. I need that in my life. Junkrat says, "This is the most innocent jealousy episode ever. It's awesome. I feel Michael Saylor coming to your Panther party soon." Hell yeah. No fate. It was all a self-deprecating joke. Yellow's takes are awesome. Oh, okay, I gotcha. That's cool. Professor 808 says, "Bruh, lock in the cosmetic appearance could help boost inclusion. Statistically proven." All right, so I need a makeover. Is that what it is? Yeah, and with the channel development, like I started this channel. I mean, I had my Twitter account 10 years ago, but I think I tweeted like three freaking times in 10 years. And when I decided to start my channel, I probably had, one follower, and it was my wife, and she wasn't following me because she actually watched my videos. Like, there's no fucking way she's watched more than 5 minutes of an episode. So to come from there to where I am, kind of reminds me of the story of like Chick-fil-A versus Boston Market. So Boston Market like had this meteoric rise, and they got a little bit too big for their britches, and they just were trying to put stores on every corner, and their quality went down. But meanwhile, Chick-fil-A just keeps plugging out, churning out freaking amazing ass chicken sandwiches, and they just grew slowly over time. And now there's a Chick-fil-A on every corner, and not only is there one in every corner, but there's cars 10 deep in both freaking drive-through lanes. So it's fine if I don't have X number of followers or whatnot. Eventually the proof of work kind of takes over, and really I don't need this channel to do anything more than be fun. So uh I am kind of looking at forward to 2025. I'm gonna go back through all of my 2024 videos, and I'm literally gonna watch every freaking episode. I'm gonna take notes. I'm gonna put together like a list of all of the things I got right, all the things I got wrong. That's gonna take freaking weeks. Like even at 2x speed, 300 episodes at an hour. Let's see. Let's say if I do 30 minutes on average, probably 45 minutes on average, but that's 150 hours. And even if I watch it on 2x speed, that's like 75 hours of watch time. Oh my God, I'm going to be so sick of myself when I finish up that crap. But looking forward to that. Might start doing some interviews, going to do some more spaces. And instead of people just being able to chat, people will be able to come up stage and we can just talk about whatever and have a little bit of back and forth. And maybe people can even say, like, oh, yeah, I've got this expiration with this date. What are my options? No advice, but we can just discuss what, you know, what all of the options are. And then, people can decide which one of the options they want to take. Shit like that. So maybe that'll be fun. Jeremy says, "Do you get denied entry if you show up dressed as an ATM?" My G Nithu is OG locked in. The men know. Penny Boner says, "Not on Sunday." Still talking about Chick-fil-A. Yeah, that's adds a little bit of mystique to it too. Like, they could be making millions of dollars on Sunday, and they just kind of drive up the scarcity and the desire. Like, you get a craving for Chick-fil-A on a Sunday, and you're like, "God damn it!" So you're just, you know, you end up overeating Chick-fil-A Monday through Saturday just to make sure you take care of your Sunday fixed. Penny Boner says, "Are the the January 1080s cooked?" Yeah, they've been cooked. I can't imagine a scenario. What, 3x in 3 weeks? 2.5 weeks. We need a 3 we need a 4x. We need a 4x in 2.5 weeks. Nah, that ain't gonna happen. Yeah, I only have a few 1080s at this point, and that's a good point. I've been running my mouth for a freaking hour. Maybe we should actually talk about the stock market. So, I've got some of this January 17th stuff, but I trimmed most of these positions off already. And even these Aprils, I've got the April 530s. I never did my intention was to roll those in January. So I will roll these Aprils to 1080 if that's the highest strike. I will do that in January. Once these are close to 90 days to expiration, I am not going to let them get close to expiration. I think that's kind of it should be an obvious hack, but if you never want your options to expire worthless, you just never let them expire. So if my long calls are never under 90 days to expiration, they can never get to 0 days to expiration, meaning they can never expire worthless. Now, if we're trading sideways until January 17th, it looks like my purchase price on these is right about what the current price is. So I'll probably be able to roll these forward for exactly what I paid. And the 1080s in June, let's April, May, June, July. So let me look at the 1080s in July. If I roll these out to the top of the chain for July, I'll actually be able to do that for a credit. So I might actually, if they're still $1,700 a contract, I may roll out the 20 contracts. Let's see, that'd be an extra $500 a contract times 20. Hmm. Is that 10 grand? I might be able to actually roll this out and have 10, excuse me, an extra 10 contracts for July. But if we get a nice rally and sorry, not activity, positions. If we get a nice rally and these are worth more than what I paid, I may just take that extra 10 grand and roll it into shares, or may even make my first Tesla purchase of the year. Throughout 2025, I'm going to diversify my portfolio of one into a portfolio of two. So I know there's supposed to be no second best, but even Sailor, somebody asked him, "Hey, what would you do if you were someone's portfolio manager?" And he said, obviously Bitcoin, and then I can't remember what else he said, but he did say like, some combination of the Mag 7, right? They account for the majority of the S&P 500's profits. So why even bother with the other 493? So my version of the Mag 7 will be the Mag 2. It's going to be MicroStrategy and Tesla. And yeah, I'm not going to own any of those other companies that don't hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet. That just doesn't hold. That doesn't hold water. Which kind of brings up a good point that I've said before. Like there are better investments from a pure dollar perspective than Bitcoin. There should be, and there have to be. And the reason is because Bitcoin is good for the world, not because it's good, but it's the cure for the debasement of the money. Like Jeff Booth says that Bitcoin must survive and must become a um, a currency. It has to be spendable, otherwise it will fail as a store of value. And I don't think there's a single thing that he's ever said that I could come up with, an ironclad argument against. I'm not saying the guy's perfect, but I'm not smart enough to come up with a valid criticism of anything I've ever heard him say in an interview. And so Sats have to be spent. I mean, you can put your savings into cold storage, but I don't even agree with the never sell your Bitcoin motto. Like there's things worth Sats, and there have to be. In order to upgrade the world, like Saylor even says, you have to invest capital. Well, if everyone's capital is stored in Bitcoin, then the only way capitalism can do capitalism things if are the people who are in possession of the capital invest in projects that are going to upgrade the world. Like Bitcoin fixes everything, but not directly. Bitcoin just fixes the money. And now everyone with clean money has to do their part and invest in companies and ideas and products and technology, you know, in each other and provide value and provide service. So, um, I don't regret selling half my Bitcoin and buying MicroStrategy, which, I mean, hell, that ought to get me an invite to the 100K party in and of itself. Like, come on now. Um, but yeah, Bitcoin is meant to be spent. It's meant to be hodled, of course, but in order for it to survive long term, it has to be the currency. Otherwise, I think the way that Jeff Booth described it is like if every single person who owned Bitcoin literally just hodled it and never spent it, well, now it's centralized. It's just centralized among millions of hodlers. And now it's worthless. Like if no one is spending it and only hodling it, it's fucking useless. So anyway, I don't even remember why I got off on that tangent, but my point about these Aprils when I rolled them out to 1080 or even this June that's at 800. Sorry, that's a debit call spread. These June 1080s. So I'm not predicting that I think MicroStrategy will be 1080 by June. What I am saying is that at some point I'm expecting a rally which will make these sellable for more than what I paid for them. Or else by 90 days, I will just roll them out and give myself more time for that rally to occur. Like if these June these June 1080s, If February, the price gets to 850 or 1,000, like, it's not 1080, and it may never even get to 1080. But if the Junes, if MicroStrategy is $1,000 in February or March, these 1080s are going to be way more valuable than they are today. So I can sell them for a profit. Like, I don't have to wait until June 20th to see if they're $3,000 over 1080. So really the break even price would be 1110. So I don't need the price to be 1150 on June 20th. If the price is like 850 in March, these will probably be in profit. So yeah, I these 20 um, leaps, these are the 530 strikes. These are so close to being in the money. Like, I could absolutely see myself waiting until expiration on these. But these January 890s, I don't know. Maybe. For $1,000 a share in July, do I hold these Januaries until 2026 and try to take profits then and spread out my tax burden? Maybe. Or, like, if the price is $1,000 a share in October, maybe these will be in the money and I'll start selling covered calls against them just in case the price goes back down. There's a lot of different options available, pun intended. All right, let's go back and check the chats again. Oh, Junkrat says yours are down 99%. Yeah, yeah. I think all of us that have these Januaries are in the same boat. So I paid 3,600 for my January. Got a little overzealous in November, I guess, when they came out with the 1080s, and I jumped into a couple of these. Yeah, so I could sell these for for 4 cents each. Yeah, I don't think there's any hope for these damn things. Junkrat says, dude, I'm hanging on to January, February, March 990s like a G. Yeah, if I had Marches, I would probably have already rolled them in December. Like I said, these April 17th ones, they have 106 days to expiration. So within the next 16 days, win or lose, I'm rolling these Aprils out. I think these January 1080s definitely look like a mistake, and I won't be repeating that. So try to stick to my guns about not holding anything that's out of the money under 90 days. When these January 1080s, I bought these at 56 days expiration. Yeah, that was probably just not very smart. That's all that was. And maybe watching this channel is just finding the things not to do, as much as, like, oh, I could do this. Like, if I do something and lose 99% of my money, like these January 1080s, maybe you can save yourself some money and just not do that. MSTR Voyager says True North episode tonight. No, what's today? Wednesday? Oh, mm, I doubt it. We talked about after the holidays. Today's January 1st. I can't imagine. Hopefully, those guys partied too hard to have a call tonight. Yeah, when we said after the holidays, I assume next week. Emperor says, LOL, I gave away money on the 990 January 17th calls. Yeah, bunch of us did. Tyler says, right there with you. Been stacking both. Tesla's going to have a great 2025. Yeah, I think so too. And my plan is really to stack Tesla to mitigate some of the bear market. If 2026 and 2027 are a bear market, I'm fully anticipating going into that cycle with like probably 3,000 shares of MicroStrategy. I've got about, yeah, I've got about 3,300 total delta, but that's minus these 20 covered calls. So if I took those off, that's be about 3,800. Yeah. So if I converted these to shares now, well, I wouldn't be able to afford that much unless I went into margin. But if and when the long calls start printing some money, I will be converting them to shares. So I'm probably going to go into 2026 with at least 3,000 shares. And that number doesn't have any mathematical significance. That's just how many shares I had pre-split before I had 100 shares get called away. So those 300 shares, pre-split shares, are kind of sentimental to me at this point. If the price of MicroStrategy crashes to 250 or below in the next couple of weeks, I will definitely sell some of these shares and buy more long calls. Maybe I'll dollar cost average into the Junes some more, or add some December 2025, January 2026 stuff. Man, this January 2020 or January 2026 ones are absolutely wrecked. Good lord. Was that like 80% drawdown? Emperor says Booth should debate Saylor on selling Bitcoin. Yeah, there's two things that I've heard Booth disagree with Saylor about. One is that he doesn't think that you can generate yield on Bitcoin, and if I'm explaining it well, I think it's because the incentives for people offering yield is to offer more and more competitive yields, and then you end up having to over leverage yourself, and then you get wrecked. And then the other one, I can't remember what the other thing that he disagreed with Saylor about, but I probably lean on the side of Jeff in both of those cases. I'll try to remember what the other one was. Yeah, the main thing that I know I messed up this year was when Ivy rank was through the roof here in March. I should have just been YOLOing into selling covered calls for premium right here. But I got scared off of that strategy because when it was, this is pre-split numbers, but when it went to close to 2,000 a share, like, you just have FOMO and you're like, well, what if it goes to 3,000? What if it goes to 4,000? And what I really should have been looking at was the Ivy rank. The premiums, even at an Ivy rank of 27 right now, is pretty good. So even these covered calls that I sold yesterday or the day before, whatever it was, the premiums are still very excellent. But I really should have been paying attention to this better. And let's see if this is still here. Yeah. So this is Market Chameleon, and this is an implied volatility chart. And implied vol just spiked in March. And then, of course, it contracted all through us trading sideways. And then when we got the November rally, implied vol spiked again. And I even remember thinking, holy shit, these premiums are insane. And I know Climb took advantage of it. Like, he definitely recognized what was happening better than I did. I added a couple of covered calls here, but again, I was still so shaken from missing out on upside in March that I was scared to put positions on and limit my upside here. And I think Dan just put out a video, you know, like MSTR damage control, and he's like, from this all-time high to now, I think he said he was down like 3 million. And I don't know what his total portfolio value was at that time, but I can definitely say my account is down over 50% from here. So this is pretty brutal to hodl through, but Bitcoiners are kind of used to it. Um, but it's a little bit easier because we just put stuff in the cold storage and we just stop looking. But me coming in here and having to trade every day and seeing my account value just evaporate is kind of harder to stomach, especially since I know that I could have mitigated maybe 25% of that damage by just heavily selling covered calls. So I won't make that mistake again. I will definitely have one eye on this chart. I sure as shit hope it doesn't take us 6 months before we get the next rally. I'm hoping something happens sooner than later. But if it doesn't, I will have a toe. I've got 20 covered calls on right now. I could have on 40 based on the amount of delta that I have here. So I only am limiting my upside on half of my positions. But we get another chart like this with implied vol spiking along with the price spiking. I will be way more aggressive with the covered call selling than I have been, just to protect myself from these drawdowns. So that's definitely one to improve on in 2025. Marketchameleon.com. Yeah, you should be able to just get a free account. You can't see these implied options volatility charts without being signed in. So you can just use your Google login, get a free account. All right. If you got any last minute questions, toss them in there. Otherwise, we will call it a day. Happy New Year, everybody. Let me just check my notes. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, proof of work with a little luck. Comparisons suck. And be Chick-fil-A, not Boston Market. Sid says, once most of my shares get to a long-term tax, I'll sell more covered calls because then the premium is taxed at the long-term rate if shares get called. I think the premium's always going to be taxed short term, but yeah, the long term, the shares, if they get called away and you ended up having to sell them, absolutely, I believe you're correct. I'm not a tax professional, but I think that's how it works. If you ended up having to get your shares called away and you held them for a year, then you could pay long-term cap gains on the shares themselves, even though you're paying short-term capital gains on the covered call. Yeah, I think that's how it works. All right, appreciate everybody tuning in, and hopefully we'll all get invites to the million Bitcoin party. The yacht will have to be like the size of a freaking aircraft carrier, but that'll just be like the good old days for me. All right, be good, Joel.